Welcome to Jette. If you clicked on this video, it means you like scary movies, and you probably haven't seen a good one in a while. Well, I can assure you that the thumbnail for this video is not clickbait. The Wretched is one of the best horror movies I have seen in recent years, and I highly recommend checking it out right now if you haven't seen it. Otherwise, this video will contain a couple spoilers for the movie from here on out. So if you're good with that, let's get right into it. What got me to click on this movie in the first place was the whole creepypasta-esque aesthetic going on in the thumbnail. I mean, look at this and tell me you haven't seen something just like it somewhere before on the internet. The other draw for me was the short runtime of the movie. Only around 90 minutes, so not really much of a commitment at all. As for the actual plot of the film, to put it as simply and spoiler-free as possible, The Wretched follows a young man named Ben who discovers some kind of evil entity that has targeted his next-door neighbors, specifically their young son, and he tries his hardest to save them despite the entity's obvious attempts to stop him. It's nothing revolutionary in terms of the story, but the way it's done feels fresh, and the characters are enjoyable enough that you're finished with the movie before you realize it. The Wretched entity itself, not too spooky on its own, not any more than similar creatures like the entity from The Ring, but it does its job as a movie's big bad. The main thing that I found creepy about this thing is the way that it sounds. The cracking of its bones as it unnaturally jerks and twists around are disturbing, and exactly what I want to hear from an entity that was supposedly born of root and soil. The sound design was seriously incredible. But this thing doesn't just creak around and screech at its victims, it also has some pretty broken powers, such as the ability to completely mind control someone by whispering in their ear, the ability to perfectly mimic voices from anyone it chooses.
Dylan, I'm down here, baby. Dylan! You're going to be in so much trouble if you don't come here right now.
And worst of all, the ability to erase its victims from their loved ones' memories once it takes them away. What makes that last one especially bad is that I'm not actually sure what the limit of this power is. It seems to take effect immediately once the entity isolates one of its victims. Obviously, it has some kind of limitation, as Ben never forgot any of the people who were taken by the Wretched, but the movie never explicitly gave us an answer. Dreadful. Not going into detail about everything the creature can do and every way it can be stopped gives the creature more of a scare factor, and it makes you feel like the Wretched is always one step ahead of our protagonist somehow. Like it knows what they are planning and is waiting to jump out of the shadows when they approach. I really liked this dynamic in the movie, because I've seen plenty of scary movies start off strong and then turn into basically an action movie halfway through, because the writers can't think of any other creative way of resolving the conflict. There are exceptions, of course, the most recent being Smile. But for the most part, modern horror movies seem to have a hard time sticking to the genre. With The Wretched, you're getting horror all the way through the movie, and the only action is the main character pathetically trying to fight off the entity and save the children, unless you count setting a tree on fire as action. As for the horror itself, there is a pleasantly small amount of jump scares in this movie. In the moments where you'd expect a jump scare in your typical horror film, The Wretched instead allows tension to build, and gives your imagination room to run wild with what could happen at any second while the characters are in less than optimal circumstances. Such as when Ben discovered the Wretched entity's altar for the first time, and again when Ben was inside of the monster's tree cavern thing, trying to free the kids. I love nothing more than feeling anxiety in a horror movie, as it means a couple of things. First, the writers are good enough at their job to successfully evoke uncomfortable emotions in their viewers. Second, the characters are likable enough for me to actually care what happens to them. And third, and most importantly, it means the movie is good enough that I am immersed in the plot and genuinely afraid of whatever monster we're dealing with. The Wretched definitely ticks all of these boxes for me, and if you like monster movies, I think you'll like it too. If this sounds like your kind of movie, I highly recommend checking it out. I think it's worth the watch. You're probably new here. The aim of this channel is to talk about all of the best anime, TV shows, video games, and as you might have guessed, movies. If that sounds like something you'd enjoy, consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel so you can keep up with my latest uploads. Thank you for watching and take it easy.